Alright, good morning guys. Hopefully you can hear me now, and hopefully my laptop stays alive. It's on like 10% right now. Before I get started, I just wanted to say thank you also for bearing with me. I know I'm not in the class, which is why I'm taking the video, so we're making things work, making things happen. Teamwork makes the dream work. Getting into this article though, mine mainly talked about some of the future antidepressants that are in the pipeline right now, which we might see in the future that are showing pretty big promise really in the field. But some of these drugs are ALKS 5461, esketamine, and Repastinel. But before we get started into that, we're going to talk about the current antidepressants in medicine right now. And these are really kind of dominated by generics now in the market. And the problem, the good thing for us is that generics are extremely cheap when compared to brand name medications, but the bad thing for pharmaceuticals is generics are extremely cheap when compared, so people will buy generics a lot more, leading to a decline in the sales of the major brand name medications. And because of this, major pharmaceutical companies have really started to walk away from the area of antidepressants, which kind of sucks because only let's see if this is not wanting to go. Only a third of the patients usually respond to current antidepressants, which is a problem because depression is a big issue in today's world. So stopping, a lot of research in this field would be bad for the field. And most antidepressants now usually work on serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, which we all know serotonin is like the feel-good neurotransmitter. So if we have more of that, not being retaken up by the neurons, it'll stay in the synaptic cleft more and make people happier. But and the problem with current antidepressants is it usually takes 6 to 12 weeks to work, which is crazy because not only do you have to get the dosage right, but you also have to wait 6 to 12 weeks, and this could be a big problem for people with severe depression and current risks of suicide and stuff. So some of the new drugs, the first one we're going to talk about is ALKS 5461. It actually has two components in it, and this is samidorphan and buprenorphine. And what happens in this is it works on the brain's opioid receptors, which the brain's opioid receptors are the same things that are activated when we take opioids, which are the big drugs, heroin, stuff like that. All bad, but this drug works as a combination of the two, and what I mean by that is the buprenorphine. That is the actual pain medication, and it's used to treat opioid addiction. That's what stimulates the opioid receptors. And the samidorphan actually works as an antagonist to the effects of the buprenorphine. So the goal is to stimulate the opioid receptors, but not so much as to where we get addicted to it. So it's interesting to see how those two work together. And as you can see, the drugs are pretty similar, except for this little region right here. Looks like the buprenorphine has a few other substituents added to it and whatnot. But anyways, the article talked about some of the clinical status of this drug, and it's an oral once daily medication, and it's currently in phase 3 trials. So the results of phase 2 trials, they found that patients were feeling better within a week, which this is incredible when compared to the current 6 to 12 week wait period that we have with the current drugs in the market. And another impressive stat is that they still felt well after 8 weeks on the drugs. So they didn't really see too many negative side effects. The article didn't really talk about major side effects or anything like that, which I wouldn't really expect there to be with the opioid receptors, other than addiction and stuff. But hopefully the samidorphan helps to kind of calm that down. And then another other than opioid stimulating drugs, there is a race in the market to create drugs that mimic ketamine. Okay, so ketamine works to block the NMDA receptor, which is a component of the glutamate pathway, which is seen higher in people with anxiety and depression. I looked up a video on YouTube. It's extremely complicated and it would take forever to explain. I still don't really understand it. So we're just going to get the fact that if you block the NMDA receptor, it is better for anxiety and depression. Okay, so anyways, ketamine, it is extremely effective against depression, but high doses result in major hallucinations and delusions. It's an injection. People use it as street drugs. So we don't really want that a lot of. We want to develop the drugs that block the NMDA pathway, but not the bad side effects of the hallucinations and delusions, at least all the time. So Johnson & Johnson, they made this product called S-ketamine, and I found this funny in the naming of it because it's actually the S enantiomer of ketamine. So S-ketamine, that's kind of funny. But right here you can see the structure of ketamine right here, and the structure of, or this is ketamine, the normal ketamine, and this is the structure of S-ketamine, and it just differs because these two groups are just switched, which is what causes it to be the enantiomer. So it's the exact same thing, just flipped. And this is a nasal spray as compared to the normal ketamine, which is an injection. So this is also easier to administer, and it is currently in phase 2 trials. Okay, so Narex is another company. It's made Repastinel and NRX 1074, which these two drugs are, pretty similar, very complicated, so I'm sure it is not easy to make at all. But Repastinel is a once-weekly injection, and phase 3 started in 2016, so this article isn't super up-to-date, but, it's still with us a little bit. Now, the crazy thing about this drug is phase 2 showed a decrease in depression in 2 hours, and it lasted a full week, which is why it's only a once-weekly injection. But still, though, current antidepressants are 6 to 12 week wait period to see their effects, if they work at all, on 1/3 of the people. And then the first drug we talked about, it showed its effects in a week. Okay, so that was incredible. And this does it in 2 hours. That's just outstanding. And it not only does it show a decrease in depression and show its effects in 2 hours, but it lasted a full week, which is extremely impressive. And NRX 1074, which I would assume, would be similar to its effects. It might be a fast-acting antidepressant, just due to the similarities in the structure, possibly, but not really sure. The article doesn't say much about it. It really just said that it was in phase 2 trials and it's taken orally. Now, keeping in the mind of Narex up here, Narex is the company that makes these drugs. So the drug giant Allergan, I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Some of their main products, they have like Restasis, Botox. I'm pretty sure they make Rapaflo. Some of those like big name drugs that people use a lot. They are actually going to buy Narex for $560 million. Yeah, that's a lot of money. But the chief of Narex, he quoted, or not Narex, but chief of Allergan quoted Narex. Their unique pipeline comprises compounds that utilize a new mechanism to target areas of significant unmet medical need in a major depressive order, which is the NMDA pathway, because most antidepressants just stimulate either the opioid receptors or like the reuptake inhibitors of certain hormones and neurotransmitters that make us feel good, make us happy, kind of stimulates that production. But this is a new pathway. So it's exciting to see where it's going to be at here in a year or two, or in the future. And then one last thing the article mentioned was Vistagen. They're coming out with they're working on 2 new products, AV101 and also a nasal spray through Turing Pharmaceuticals. They didn't say anything about the nasal spray. They didn't give the name or anything at all about it. But AV101 is an oral NMDA modulator, so it's the same thing that Narex was trying to do. and the nasal sprays in preclinical development now. That's all it mentioned. So it didn't really give too much data on that, but the gist of this is that the antidepressants aren't getting the job done at all today. So people are seeing that and they're trying to stimulate other pathways, and it looks like they're having success now. So we'll see here in the future if and how things change in the field of antidepressants. It's looking promising now. So thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next time.